After a bit of a break, Black Clover is back with 2 new chapters, and the war against Lucius, the rogue wizard king, it has taken a turn for the worse because just when you thought that Lucius couldn't do anything more foul than he's already done, he brings Asta's mother back from the dead and he uses her as a human shield to take over our favorite little anti-magic user with the most underhanded trick in the history of Black Clover to strike him down. However, let's back things up and let's go over the chapters because chapter 379 and 380, they are huge turning points in the war with a major cliffhanger ending that is bound to be controversial, even though there was foreshadowing for it. So we open up the chapter with what seems like it is hope. The various magic knights they are shown celebrating as they are seemingly beginning to strike down the last of Lucius' clones, which is an incredible feat given how long these battles have been drawn out. And you clearly see that many of the magic knights, they have been pushed to their breaking points. But just when it seems as if the Clover Kingdom has a reason to celebrate the various battles that they are witnessing, the Grimoire Towers across the kingdom begin to emit a light, and Lucius, the real Lucius, finally shows himself with the ultimate troll move, revealing to Asta and Yuno that they weren't even fighting the real him. Instead, they were fighting another one of his clones because, being blunt, he had shit to do. He sat back and he watched everything, waiting for this very moment, saying that the clones, they took a lot of time to make, but they bought him the time needed to link all the Grimoire Towers together for one diabolical purpose, which this moment hits even deeper when you realize the only way that he could have did this was if he was using the magic power of Asta's mom, since she draws in all magic that is near her. This is so diabolic the more you read this. Lucius has basically become a custom created character in a video game that has acquired every possible skill because Lucius now has access to every single grimoire from every tower in the Clover Kingdom. He explains it to Asta and Yuno that grimoires exist in this world long before humans were ever born into it, and that when a human being dies, the spells that they have added to the grimoires, they all remain, and the grimoire itself basically goes back to the tower, which means that Lucius now has thousands of spells that he can use, potentially hundreds of thousands of new spells he can use, and he flexes on them briefly before he vanishes. Now, what's also interesting here is that Lucius's hubris, it is beginning to show itself big time. He doesn't refer to himself as being Wizard King. Instead, he refers to himself as Wizard Emperor, and that is very telling language. Usually when this chapter is translated, you get Wizard King, not Wizard Emperor, and it is a extremely arrogant thing to do, but it just shows how cocky he's gotten, and it fits with his presentation that Tabata has given to us as readers, that Lucius is basically the man who is believing himself to be God, which means that there's going to be a huge payoff later on where Lucius eventually gets humble. In the blink of an eye, Lucius, he travels across the various areas to snatch up 3 unwitting souls, including Marks, to offer them up as a demonstration to Asta and Yuno. He kills them all right in front of them, and the moment that their grimoires begin to return to the tower, Lucius now has access to all their spells, and he quickly produces chains that can seal off Yuno's magic in one attack, and then in another moment, he begins to project to all the citizens of the Clover Kingdom exactly what's happening on their battlefield. Basically, he wants everyone to watch as he kills Asta and Yuno. While this is going on, Ryuya quickly has Fuji step in with his Yojutsu, and Ryuya quickly connects to Asta to game plan with him. As Asta's battling Lucius, Ryuya notices that Lucius is still careful to avoid the anti-magic, and he realizes that the crystal in Lucius' chest is a potential weak spot given all the magic concentrated there, and that Asta could exploit it if he can use his anti-magic and Zetting combo. But the problem with that is, for as good of a plan as it is, you have to be capable of carrying it out. And right now, for as much as Asta's improved, he's not on the level of Lucius, who quickly talks trash to him, saying that he will kill him and he will revive him in a body that has magic. But before he can give the finishing blow, Yuno steps in to offer as a shield for Asta, and then that's where the unforgivable happens. Lucius produces a flesh and blood revival of Asta's mom, and we learn that Lucius met her in the past and this leads to Libe being overwhelmed with emotions and flashbacks, which offers Lucius the chance to cut through Asta and Libe the moment that their devil union breaks. This rightfully sends all the people in the Clover Kingdom into a panic. One of its heroes, Asta, has just been cut right across the chest with what should be viewed as a fatal wound given the lowering of the guard upon seeing his dead mother. While Yuno watches in stunned silence, Yami and Noelle, they lose it, with Noelle screaming Asta's name, which it should be worth noting, if you thought that Noelle saying Asta now sounded weird, it's because it absolutely is weird. That's not what was said in the actual translation. So if you look up the Spanish version of the chapter, you have the correct dialogue, which is Noelle is screaming, Asta, I'm coming. Noelle was in the process of trying to go, which as we'll see in a moment, Noelle stopped short, but it's very poetic just to think that Noelle was intending to back up Asta, and she gets stopped at the sight of her mother just after Asta gets struck down after seeing his mother. And Noelle was saved by Asta in the first arc of the story, and now you have Asta potentially trying to get saved by Noelle here, but being stopped. And Yami refusing to believe that Asta would die like this. However, those two have more pressing matters to attend to, because Asir Silva, who was just defeated, and Morgan, they have been revived, while Noelle is watching in shock at the sight of her mother, who she just struggled to defeat, and Yami loses it, asking how far will Lucius go continuing to play God with the lives of humans. This leads to Lucius looking over Asta while he has his paladins circling around him, and he informs them that this time he's going to make sure that Asta does indeed die, because he's not making the same mistake he made last time. However, before he can strike Asta down, Yuno powers up and charges at Lucius at full power at last, and he quickly begins to assault him. Lucius asks Yuno if he's making a mistake by releasing Neverland, because without it, the other Magic Knights, they won't be able to survive what he has planned next. But Yuno confesses that he has faith in the resolve of his fellow Magic Knights, which serves as a rallying cry to all the other Magic Knights to go on the counterattack, while Yuno is battling Lucius with everything he has, landing multiple cuts with his sword around various parts of Lucius' body. Yet Lucius isn't bothered by what he sees. Instead, he smiles, stating that Yuno is too weak to defeat him, which causes Asta to produce his Demon Dweller sword before Asta and Libe suddenly vanish behind Yuno. And when Lucius states that there's nowhere that Asta can hide, that he won't find him, we get the big reveal. Yuno has the Demon Dweller sword, and he has the black coat of anti-magic, and now we have Yuno with 3 types of magic to battle Lucius: star magic, wind magic, and now anti-magic. For now, it seems as if fate of the world, it is resting on Yuno's shoulders. This is also very interesting because Yuno getting the Demon Dweller sword, it pays off what the Witch Queen suggested about Lick's descendants, saying that they would be able to use a sword. That theory was now proven to be correct, since Yuno has the elf soul inside of him. Now, Asta's words about "I will catch up to you" that he spoke to Yuno, that's a bit heartbreaking. At least it came across as heartbreaking to me. Almost as if Asta knew that Yuno had leaped ahead of him and that he was not catching him. Black Clover does do the rival thing, so there's always a chance that Asta, wherever he is, he comes back stronger, but at some point, one rival does pull firmly ahead of the other, and not every shonen has it where the main character is the one that pulls ahead in the end. We see it all too often in shonen that use this trope that one character does pull ahead, especially when you have co-main characters like we have at Asta and Yuno. So there's a few things that we obviously have to touch on here. I think most of us will have agreed that Lickta was going to be pulled out at some point in this final battle. Once we saw Noelle's mom and Nox's brother return, it was a matter of when, not so much if. But to do so in the most diabolical way, it was really good writing, especially with the small smirk that Lucius gave in the moment he did it. That is aura farming right there. That was, in my opinion, one of the more defining moments for Lucius in terms of his aura and the way that he shut down Asta and Libe right after that. That's what makes a good villain, not hesitating to go for the emotional juggler before readers can fully comprehend what they're seeing, and it just makes you want to reach out and hug Libe for all the emotional trauma that he went through in that moment. The same with Yuno getting anti-magic. I think we all knew that this was coming at some point in the story, but this is a very ballsy decision. Between that and Bell joining Yuno and getting the Demon Dweller sword, two-sword Yuno has a chance to do some real damage to Lucius, but it's ballsy in that you're basically taking the very thing that people who don't like Yuno have complained about and you have magnified it, which, while I'm personally not a fan of it, I do think narratively this does work. And to Tabata's credit, him doubling down on it means that he's got a payoff in mind, which means as readers, we have to sit back and see what that payoff will be and whether or not that payoff is earned. I don't think Yuno is the one who strikes down Lucius. He has death flags in my opinion, but there is a huge payoff that's being set up here. The other thing that I like is the new grimoire lore dump that we get here, particularly that the spells are now confirmed for every grimoire after the owner's death. They stay in the grimoire and them being wisdom granted by the gods. One thing that I know is popular in the community is the possibility of exploring angels since we have devils, which I think this might be opening the door to explore that later on. The next thing is this decision to bring back the Paladins for an encore. That was another bold move to make. I personally love the idea of them being used to wrap up character arcs, like we saw with Noelle and with Nocturne with Yami. But now, them getting back and having new designs, more hideous designs than originally, which that is intentional to show how far Lucius has warped their humanity, it does make me wonder just how far Tabata is planning to push the envelope here. Because I do think for as good as this is, you have to be very careful. Some of these characters are now both emotionally and physically drained. A round 2 is going to have to be written very carefully. Obviously, we're going to have the push past your limits trope. I think we all expect that to happen, but you've got to be careful with this one. Now, I do also think we have to consider, given how calculating Lucius is, that there is the possibility that the Paladins coming back is meant to swerve us as readers, because there's still obviously going to be battles, but there's a swerve that's being baked into this to take our eyes off of something. Because the moment that you see those Paladins, if you begin to start thinking that we're going to get like 500 chapters, I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. If you think we're going to get 500 chapters of these battles, then I definitely think that Tabata is planning to swerve us. And I think this is intentional. I think potentially there's something with Adrenaline that is going to happen, because it's been a while since we've seen that slime ball do anything meaningful. Now, Asta telling Yuno to not hold back, that's why I think there's a potential death flag, just given what happened to Asta in this chapter. But now that we have the connection to Lucius and Asta's mom, one final question that we have to ask is one that we've been asking forever, which is, who is Asta's father? Sadly, we're going to have to wait another 3 to 4 months for this next chapter, but I'm personally satisfied with the 50+ pages that we got, because that cliffhanger ending is going to leave us asking quite a few questions, like, is Yuno about to die, or where did Asta go? Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and clicking here on the left to check out more videos from Anime Explained, or click here on the right to check out videos from the Black Clover playlist we have here on the channel.